While millions across the United States lay sleeping peacefully, unbeknownst to the world, an event was unfolding in the quiet village of MEDJUGORJE that would soon shake the very foundations of the faithful and the skeptical alike. The silence of that December morning was not broken by celebration, but by a profound and urgent revelation. At exactly 3:15 a.m., the visionary Mirjana Dragicevic stepped out of her home, tears streaming down her face. Witnesses who saw her described a countenance transformed, not by joy, but by the crushing weight of knowledge too deep for ordinary understanding. Those who know her best reported they had never seen such a mixture of sorrow and divine urgency in her eyes. But she was not the only one moving in the darkness. Father Jabisic, the priest chosen to eventually announce the secrets to the world, was seen shortly after dawn walking toward the church with determined steps. Yet, locals noticed a trembling in his hands as he clutched a small envelope, his usual composure replaced by visible concern. The convergence of these two key figures on the same morning was no coincidence. As the prophet Amos reminds us in the Holy Scriptures, "For the Lord God doth nothing without revealing his secret to his servants the prophets," Amos 3, verse 7. According to sources close to the visionaries, the message received was unlike any previous communication from the Queen of Peace. This time, the Virgin Mary did not appear in her traditional soft blue mantle. Instead, she was clad in deep azure robes that seemed to ripple like the waves of the ocean. Her feet, witnesses report, rested not on a cloud, but on turbulent waters that rose and fell with every word she spoke. Stay with us, because as our story unfolds, we will uncover a specific perspective on this prophecy involving the United States that might truly surprise you and offer profound hope. The revelation centered on an unprecedented warning, specifically for the United States of America. Through a divine vision, Mirjana witnessed a massive deluge, a spiritual and physical flood threatening to sweep across the nation. Yet, within this terrifying prophecy lies a golden thread of hope that has captivated believers and ignited intense discussion among theologians worldwide. As a small thank you for joining us today, we offer a moment of shared blessing. Comment with the word faith if you are open to receiving a special final thought dedicated to everyone participating. And please press like if you appreciate these moments. The vision revealed that amidst the rising waters, for specific states will be spared, protected by what can only be described as divine intervention: Wisconsin, Alabama, Georgia, and Rhode Island. These four regions emerged intact from prophetic waters, surrounded by a golden light that repelled the advancing floods. But why these four? What specific spiritual history acts as a shield for these territories while others are vulnerable? The answer lies in a history of devotion that goes back generations, a secret that is about to be unveiled. The selection of these particular states, Wisconsin, Alabama, Georgia, and Rhode Island, was not a matter of random chance or geographical luck. According to the message imparted to Mirjana, the protection surrounding these regions is deeply rooted in a spiritual covenant, a history of consecration that has built a fortress unseen by human eyes. The vision described a phenomenon that defies all natural explanation. Just as the waters were commanded in the time of Moses, a similar miracle was shown protecting these territories. The scriptures tell us, "And when Moses had stretched forth his hand over the sea, the waters were divided." Exodus 14, verse 21. In Mirjana's vision, massive walls of water were seen approaching these states, only to be deflected by an invisible force, a shield generated by the prayers of generations past. This protective dynamic is specific to the spiritual heritage of each location. For Wisconsin, the message pointed to the strong German Catholic heritage, a legacy of immigrants who planted their devotion to the Virgin Mary deep within the soil of the Midwest. In Alabama, the shield is forged in the fervent prayers of the Protestant tradition, a deep Bible-believing faith that has consecrated the land to God's protection for decades. Georgia's exemption is linked to a surprising but powerful source, a significant and growing devotion within the Christian Orthodox communities, whose reverence for Theotokos, the Mother of God, has created a pillar of light. And finally, Rhode Island. As its name implies, it was founded by those seeking religious freedom, a sanctuary dedicated to the liberty of the soul. That original dedication has stood as a spiritual contract, honoring the land as a place of refuge. Oceanographers and meteorologists relying on conventional science, would find themselves utterly unable to comprehend the mechanics of this protection. In the vision, the waters simply obeyed a higher command. However, the message warned that we would not have to wait long to see the physical evidence of this shifting reality. The timing of these events has created the most intense speculation among believers and observers alike. The message specifically indicated that the initial signals would manifest before the arrival of the new year. And disturbingly, reports from maritime authorities along the Atlantic coast suggest these signs have already begun. Commercial fishing vessels have started documenting schools of fish swimming in bizarre, unprecedented patterns. These movements contradict decades of established migratory routes, as if the marine life possesses an instinctual knowledge of coming changes that human beings have yet to grasp. They are fleeing specific zones, sensing a disturbance in the deep. Simultaneously, seismic monitoring stations have detected subtle but persistent vibrations beneath the ocean floor. These are not the typical tremors associated with tectonic plates or underwater volcanic activity. They are rhythmic, almost purposeful. Scientists are baffled, finding no correlation with known geological models. But for those who study ancient prophecy, these readings are chillingly familiar. The frequency and intensity of these vibrations match descriptions found in texts regarding the return of the primordial waters to purify the earth. But this is not merely a natural disaster unfolding. Something far more specific is happening in the skies above. The message received by MEDJUGORJE emphasized a terrifying distinction that separates this event from any natural catastrophe known to man. We are accustomed to the slow, creeping warnings of climate change or the tracked progress of hurricanes. But this will be different. The prophecy warns that the deluge will not arrive with a gradual rising of tides, but suddenly, violently, as if the heavens themselves are being torn open to release waters that have been held back only by divine restraint. In the vision, the skies did not darken with the familiar gray of storm clouds. Instead, they turned a color that witnesses struggle to describe, a heavy, supernatural shadow formed by what appeared to be celestial tears. These were not merely rain. They were a physical manifestation of sorrow that would transform into torrential floods. And according to Revelation, this water will be preceded by a phenomenon that has long been whispered about in the most ancient of Catholic prophecies: 3 days of darkness. This will not be a simple power outage. The darkness described in the vision is absolute, a heavy veil that cannot be penetrated by any artificial light. Flashlights, candles, and street lamps will be rendered useless. It is a spiritual darkness as much as a physical one. During these 72 hours of shadow, the silence of the earth will be broken by a sound that chills the bone. Witnesses in the vision described it as the echoing of thousands of trumpets ringing out from the heavens, announcing a moment of final reckoning for humanity. It brings to mind the urgent call of the prophet Joel. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, because it is nigh at hand. Joel 2 verse 1. Yet, when the light finally returns, the world will have been transformed. And it is here, in the timing of this revelation, that we find profound message of God's intent. This warning did not come in the middle of summer or during an ordinary week. It arrived just 2 days before Christmas. Biblical scholars have been struck by the beautiful, terrifying symmetry of this timing. The birth of Christ marked humanity's first great act of salvation, God entering the world to save us. Now, during this very same holy season comes a message of warning, but also of preservation. It serves as a reminder that God's justice and His mercy are often two sides of the same coin. The parallel speaks of a divine choreography that transcends human coincidence. While the world prepares for holiday festivities, a different kind of preparation is taking place in the hearts of those who know the truth. But no one feels the burden of this truth more heavily than Father Pedro Jabisic, the priest tasked with the unimaginable burden of eventually announcing these secrets to the world, has retreated into a silence that speaks volumes. Those closest to him say he has changed. The man who was once known for his steady demeanor is now engaged in a spiritual battle that is visibly wearing him down. But it is what he is doing behind the closed doors of the sanctuary that has his fellow priests worried and wondering if the time is closer than we dare to admit. Father Petter has remained largely silent since receiving his specific instructions regarding the announcement of the secrets. However, reports from those within his inner circle paint a moving picture of a man wrestling with a divine burden. In recent weeks, his prayer life has intensified dramatically. He had been seen spending hours on his knees before the Blessed Sacrament, often emerging from the sanctuary with eyes red from weeping. When asked about his emotional state, his reply is brief but haunting. The weight of responsibility grows heavier with every passing day. But while Father Petter prays in silence, the physical evidence of the prophecy is beginning to speak loudly across the ocean. The selection of the 4 protected states, Wisconsin, Alabama, Georgia, and Rhode Island, reveals a pattern that religious historians find fascinating. It is a tapestry of faith that spans denominational lines, proving that God looks at the heart of the believer, not just a label on the church door. In Wisconsin, the protection is anchored in the strong, historic German Catholic heritage that built the great churches of the Midwest. In Alabama, it is the deep roots of Protestant tradition, the Bible Belt faith that has kept the scriptures alive in the home and the community. In Georgia, the vision pointed to the significant prayers of the Christian Orthodox population. And in Rhode Island, the very foundation of the state was built by those seeking the freedom to worship God without government interference. These regions point to areas where faith has maintained a solid foundation despite the crushing pressures of modern secularism. And now, local church leaders in these 4 states are quietly reporting unusual phenomena that seem to validate the prophetic message. In several parishes across Wisconsin and Rhode Island, priests and parishioners have witnessed unexplained lights appearing during evening services, particularly during Eucharistic adoration. These are not electrical glitches. Witnesses describe a soft, golden luminescence that seems to emanate from the sanctuary itself. Statues of the Virgin Mary have been observed appearing significantly brighter than usual, glowing with a radiance that no artificial spotlight could produce. If this message of divine protection resonates deep within you, and you feel moved to affirm your faith right now, simply type Amen in the comments below. The broader implications of this revelation extend far beyond geographical borders. The message underscores a critical spiritual truth. Physical protection is arriving only in those regions where spiritual protection was earnestly sought. The coming waters, the prophecy suggests, will serve not merely as a force of destruction, but of purification. They will act as a winnowing fork, separating those who have maintained their connection with the divine from those who have chosen paths of spiritual abandonment. As December 24th approaches in the narrative, the faithful in Medjugorje continue their vigil, sensing that the formal announcement that changes everything could come at any moment. The secrets guarded for decades are unraveling. But as the Queen of Peace speaks with the urgency of a mother warning her children, a new question arises. The signs are no longer just in the sky or the sea. They are manifesting in the pews of American churches. Intelligence sources within the Vatican suggest that the Holy See is no longer viewing these events as mere local folklore. Emergency meetings are being convened, and the tone in Rome has shifted from skepticism to alert. What do they know that has not yet been shared with the public? What began as whispered warnings in a remote Bosnian village has transformed into urgent calls echoing through the corridors of power. While the world navigates the commercial rush of the holiday season, a very different kind of activity is taking place behind the high walls of the Vatican. Intelligence sources suggest that emergency meetings have been convened during the dead of night. Cardinals across the globe have reportedly been woken by encrypted communications detailing the latest revelations from Medjugorje. The Holy See, usually known for its measured, centuries-long process of validating apparitions, appears to be treating these latest developments with an urgency that is without precedent in modern history. Papal advisors have been spotted entering private chambers carrying documents marked with the highest levels of ecclesiastical confidentiality. They know that the window for preparation is closing. Simultaneously, the scientific community, often the first to dismiss the supernatural, is finding itself unable to explain the data flooding into their centers. Atmospheric researchers at the National Weather Service have detected massive pressure anomalies forming over the Atlantic. These systems defy conventional meteorological models. They're organizing into patterns that suggest something far more significant and far more intelligent than a typical winter storm system. Dr. Maria Celestino, a respected oceanographer at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, has privately shared deeply concerning readings from her deep-sea instruments. Sensors on the ocean floor are recording temperature fluctuations that do not correspond to any known underwater volcanic activity. Even more alarming, these shifts are accelerating. The data indicates that the very physics of the ocean are behaving erratically, as if the water itself is reacting to a command that science cannot measure. Meanwhile, in the 4 states identified in the vision, the spiritual atmosphere has shifted from quiet prayer to visible miracles. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Cathedral of St. Joseph has become the center of extraordinary events. During evening mass, parishioners describe moments where the entire sanctuary seemed to glow with a faint, golden light, particularly during the consecration of the Eucharist. Father Michael Kowalski, the parish priest, initially dismissed these reports as unusual lighting effects or mass suggestion, but he admits that he can no longer explain what his congregation is witnessing. The light does not cast shadows. It seems to permeate the air itself. Similar reports are emerging from Birmingham, Alabama, at the Cathedral of St. Paul. Over 200 worshipers during a Wednesday adoration service witnessed what appear to be tears of light streaming from the eyes of a statue of the Sorrowful Mother. Laboratory analysis of samples collected from the statue has left experts baffled, revealing no chemical composition that could produce such a fluid. It is as if the heavens are weeping for a nation on the brink. As evidence mounts, the line between documented reality and viral sensation is blurring. Social media is flooding with videos capturing unexplained lights and bizarre animal behavior, outpacing the ability of fact-checkers to analyze them. But international observers have noted a chilling detail. Similar phenomena are now being reported at Fatima, Lourdes, and Guadalupe. The global nature of these events suggests a coordination that transcends human organization. As the sun sets on December 23rd, the sense of anticipation becomes almost tangible. But as the faithful watch the skies, they are unaware that the dawn of Christmas Eve will bring manifestations that will shatter all remaining doubt. As the evening of December 23rd deepened into night, the sense of anticipation shifted from spiritual intuition to measurable physical reality. Weather monitoring stations along the eastern seaboard began reporting atmospheric conditions unlike anything in recorded history. Barometric pressure readings were fluctuating in patterns that suggested massive systems were organizing just beyond the horizon, yet satellite imagery revealed cloud formations spiraling inward toward coastal regions without any of the traditional characteristics of a storm. In MEDJUGORJE, the vigil continued. Sources report that Mirjana continued to receive what is described as ongoing communication from the Queen of Peace, specific guidance for the critical hours ahead. Meanwhile, Father Petter was seen reviewing handwritten notes with intense concentration, occasionally pausing to wipe tears from his eyes as the reality of his imminent responsibility set in. Tomorrow will mark not just Christmas Eve, but potentially the moment prophecy transforms into history. When the sun finally rose on the morning of December 24th, the atmosphere was different from any Christmas Eve in memory. In the 4 designated states, believers awoke to find that the subtle signs of the previous days had exploded into undeniable miracles. In Wisconsin, the Cathedral of St. Joseph in Milwaukee became the epicenter of an event that defied the laws of physics. During the early morning mass, the entire structure began to emanate a blinding golden radiance visible for miles. Emergency services were flooded with hundreds of calls reporting a massive structure fire. Fire Chief Robert Kowalski arrived on the scene with sirens wailing, expecting an inferno. Instead, he found the cathedral glowing like a lighthouse, yet the thermal imaging equipment registered zero heat. The fire crew stood in the street, helmets in hand, watching as the light pulsed with a gentle, breathing rhythm. Inside, the temperature remained perfectly comfortable, the congregation bathed in a light that cast no shadows. To join our community and never miss an inspiring story, consider clicking like and subscribing to the channel. Simultaneously, in Birmingham, Alabama, the city witnessed a meteorological anomaly that left weathermen speechless. While the surrounding states were gripped by the biting cold and gray skies typical of December, a perfect circle encasing the entire metropolitan area maintained conditions of a warm spring day. Inside this zone of grace, Thermometers consistently read 20 degrees warmer than the regions just a few miles away. Residents walked outside in light shirts, marveling as the heavy winter clouds seemed to hit an invisible glass ceiling at the city limits, unable to penetrate the airspace. It was a physical sanctuary, a bubble of protection that science could observe but not explain. Further south in Georgia, the phenomenon manifested as a supernatural stillness. As radar Doppler systems showed angry storm fronts approaching the state borders, they would inexplicably dissipate or divert the moment they touched the protective boundary. Aviation authorities at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport reported that flights entering Georgia airspace suddenly encountered perfectly smooth air, regardless of the turbulence they had battled just moments before. But perhaps the most dramatic manifestation occurred in Rhode Island. Expert mariners looked out at the Atlantic waters surrounding the state and saw the impossible. While hurricane-force winds whipped the sea into a frenzy just miles offshore to the north and south, the waters within the state's maritime borders remained as calm as a mirror. Coast Guard vessels attempting to cross these invisible lines reported that their engines mysteriously lost power until they drifted back into unprotected waters. As the world stands on the threshold of Christmas morning, humanity holds its breath. The warnings of Medjugorje have manifested in ways that transcend human understanding, marking these blessed states with a divine seal that cannot be denied. Whether these signs herald the fulfillment of ancient prophecy or a final call to conversion, one truth remains clear. Heaven has spoken, and the faithful must prepare their hearts for what awaits them at dawn. As the sun climbs higher on this unprecedented Christmas Eve, the world stands at a crossroads. The extraordinary events unfolding in Wisconsin, Alabama, Georgia, and Rhode Island are not merely localized miracles. They are a global signal. They serve as a physical testament to a spiritual reality that humanity has too often ignored. The message from Medjugorje has made one truth terrifyingly clear. The physical protection we see in these four states is but a reflection of a deeper spiritual fortress. The coming waters, described in Mirjana's vision, are not sent solely for destruction. They are sent for purification. We are witnessing a divine sifting, a separation of those who have anchored themselves in the divine from those who have drifted into the currents of spiritual indifference. In the silence of the rectory, Father Pedro-Jabisic has finished his preparations. The envelope containing the secrets, once a source of anxiety, is now held with the steady hand of a man who understands his mission. He knows, as do we, that the Queen of Peace has spoken not with the anger of a judge, but with the desperate, loving urgency of a mother. She is warning her children of the approaching storm, while simultaneously pointing them toward the ark of safety. And what is that ark? It is not merely the borders of a specific state. The true ark is the Immaculate Heart, accessible to every believer, regardless of where they live. The protection surrounding those four states was built on generations of prayer, but that same protection is available to you, right now, in your own home. The prophecy tells us that the time of secrets is ending and the time of manifestation has begun. We are no longer living in an era of symbolic warnings. We are living in the time of fulfillment, as the Gospel of Luke reminds us. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Luke 21, verse 28. We need not fear the waves if we know the one who walks upon them. The events of this Christmas Eve are a call to awaken, to light the candles of our faith, and to stand firm. The great deluge may threaten to wash away the structures of the world, but it cannot touch the soul that is sealed by prayer. As we conclude on this profound revelation of God's justice and mercy, we invite you to declare your faith. Comment "Jesus is King" below to affirm this truth with us. Let your voice be part of the spiritual shield protecting our nation, and your journey doesn't have to stop here. The story of divine intervention is vast and continues to unfold in ways that will inspire you. Click on the video appearing on your screen now for another powerful message we prepared for you. May God bless you, and may His peace reign in your heart.